Well, either you came back for part 2, or you decided to start with something positive. Again, this includes only games that I actually completed this year, because if I limited it to just games that came out this year, there'd only be like 4 games on the list. These are my top 10 games I played in 2013 and 2012. Number 10, World of Warcraft. I played this game off and on for a while with various free trials and private servers, but this was the first time I got to sit down with an actual account and play for a solid 2 months with a very good friend of mine. I absolutely get it now. I completely understand why people obsess over this game. It's not just a grind fest, it's not just a quest for epic loot. There's an entire world of interesting characters and silly missions to complete. Hell, it's possible to reach maximum level without even killing anything, just by exploring the world and doing fetch quests. There's fishing, crafting, smithing, potion making, everything completionists and bar fillers crave. You can play this game for years and still not see everything. And when you have obligations to your guild and raiding party, it's easy for it to absolutely consume your life. Thankfully, that didn't happen to me. I got 2 characters to level 80, my Tauren Druid Garethon and my Draenei Mage Magdalena, and that's enough for me. I enjoyed my time in Azeroth, but I'm not going to let it take over my life. After all, there's still 9 more games on this list alone. Number 9, Manhunt 2. You know what? I'm an adult, and sometimes I want to play a violent, bloody, rated M for mature murder simulator about an escaped mental patient with a psychopathic killer inside his brain. And once I got through the hassle of uncensoring the game on my jailbroken Wii, I found it incredibly fun, incredibly gory, and viscerally entertaining game for the masters of gratuitous video game violence. I consider myself a pretty well-adjusted person, and this game managed to shock even me. There's a part where you need to trick a retina scanner, so your mission objective is get a fire axe. I'm just gonna let you use your imagination on that one. And guess what? Did it make me want to go out and strangle people using the nunchuck as a garrote? Of course not, because I know the difference between fantasy violence and real violence. This is a game that's not meant for kids. It's M-rated for a reason, and it earns every bit of that M rating. It's a game made by adults, for adults, and as an adult, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Number 8, Kirby's Epic Yarn. But what's the point of being an adult if you can't act like a kid once in a while? I'll admit, if it weren't for the Kirby retrospective, I probably wouldn't have picked this one up, because I knew going into it that it's not actually a Kirby game, but that's something I'll have to get into later. Suffice it to say, it's been a long time since I played a platformer that was this much fun. It's not hard, it's not challenging, but it's one of the prettiest looking games on the Wii, and almost every level managed to have a moment that just made me stop and go, wow, that was really fun. That's Kirby's Epic Yarn in a nutshell. Fun. It's not trying to be anything else, and if you're looking for a challenge, trying to get 100% on the later stages will certainly give you one. But if I went into any more detail, I wouldn't have anything left for the retrospective episode. If I ever actually get around to it. Number 7, Final Fantasy IX. I am ever so slowly managing to cross every numbered Final Fantasy off my list, and Final Fantasy IX is one that I absolutely adored. It's not just a stylized fantasy RPG with amazing graphics that still hold up today. It's a love letter to the classic RPGs of the NES era that I grew up with. In fact, there's so many references to the first game, it's almost a direct sequel. I'm not going to go into too much detail since I did a vlog about the game once I finished it, but I will say that there's a reason it's only at number 7. As much as there was to enjoy, and there is a lot of great stuff here, there was another RPG that I played that managed to completely blow me away. So I have to compare Final Fantasy IX to its brethren. It's a very well made game, but there's always room for improvement. Number 6, The Elder Scrolls Oblivion. I know most people have probably moved on to and through Skyrim by now, but Bethesda has a habit of taking an already overwhelming idea and adding so much to it becomes a behemoth that's impossible to kill without a massive time investment. Just think about this. Every object on every shelf can be interacted with. People can be talked to or killed for no reason whatsoever, plants can be collected to make potions, there are dungeons to explore, quests to complete, thousands and thousands of secret chests to find. Just take a look around and realize that everything you see was placed there deliberately by one of the developers. I've sunk almost 200 hours into this game as 3 different characters, and I don't even think I've seen everything without even counting the DLC. This game is absolutely fucking huge, but it's more than that. It's an inspiring game. The attention to detail and freedom the game gives you is legendary. You could literally walk around killing every single person you see, good, bad, or indifferent, and still never block yourself from beating the game. Well, at least not intentionally. This is the kind of game that I want to make. Something that people can get lost in and spend time uncovering secrets. And playing Oblivion made me feel like it's actually possible. And with Fallout New Vegas and Skyrim and now Elder Scrolls Online on my to-do list, Bethesda is going to be a staple in my gaming library for many years to come. Number 5. Legend of Grimrock. Here's a game that caught everybody I know off guard. Legend of Grimrock managed to take a genre that most people don't even know existed and revived it in the best way possible. As soon as I managed to beat it, I immediately started a second game with a completely different party just to experience it all over again. It even made me look into other games in the same genre like Eye of the Beholder and Dungeon Master with a new sense of curiosity. And that's the best thing for an indie title like this to do, make you rediscover a love for something you didn't even know you loved in the first place. It manages to perfectly walk the line between lethal combat and amazingly inventive puzzles. I really need to fire this game up again and play some of the custom fan dungeons, as well as try my hand at making some of my own. I haven't been this excited about a level editor since Portal 2. If you haven't tried it yet, do yourself a favor and pick it up. If the idea interests you at all, Grimrock is one of the best examples of the genre that has ever been made. Number 4. Metroid Prime Trilogy. Not the Wii game, I don't actually own that yet, but if I listed them all separately, they'd take up 3 slots. They really are that good. I went on a huge Metroid binge this year and played through every game in the Prime series, pretty much back to back. Perhaps it was to wash the bad taste of Other M out of my mouth, or maybe it was just to have a sense of accomplishment. Team Ninja should take note. This is how you do a Metroid game differently, but still do it right. Everything about these games is polished, and it never misses the opportunity to convince you that there is a living, breathing world outside of those corridors and phazon pits. The data logs, the backstories, the music, everything about this series is what makes Metroid fans so fucking excited to see where the story is headed. My personal favorite was Corruption, followed very closely by Prime. I know I'm probably in the minority for liking Corruption more, but I was just a big fan of the characters. They really helped expand this world beyond just Samus and the Chozo. There are other bounty hunters out there, and am I alone in wanting to hear their backstories as well? I mean, anything other than another midquel. Give us the next chapter after Fusion, Nintendo. Give us something. We've been very patient. Number 3. Deus Ex Human Revolution. I tried playing the first Deus Ex, but I found it has not aged well. I'm not a graphics whore by any means, but the controls and interface just felt clunky and way too intrusive to be enjoyable. Thankfully, there was Deus Ex Human Revolution. Everything that made the first game inaccessible to modern gamers was thrown away and restructured to create one of the most engaging, thought-provoking, and immersive video games I've played in a very long time. It really does feel like you could play this game however you want and it'll adapt to your playstyle without sacrificing any of the experience. Want to go in as a complete ninja and sneak past everyone? Go for it. Go in guns blazing and punch folks through the walls? You can do that too. But it's more than just that. Deus Ex told a story that actually spoke to me on a personal level. If you don't know, I'm a huge believer in transhumanism, and Deus Ex presents itself as a what-if scenario. What if humans were given the means to control their own physical and psychological development? What would happen to the others who chose not to or were unable to afford augmentation? Do you leave them behind as natural selection dictates, or do you choose to limit the advancement of others based purely on the idea that it's unnatural? This is the kind of story and setting that I can talk about for hours, and just writing this section made me want to play through it and experience it all over again. Number 2. Tales of Symphonia. When I first got my Wii, I was also getting a GameCube. So the first thing I did was look up all the highest rated GameCube exclusive games I missed out on playing. The big ones were pretty obvious, first-party games like Super Mario Sunshine, Wind Waker, Metroid Prime, and of course Smash Bros. But one that was consistently high on the list was a strange third-party JRPG called Tales of Symphonia. I knew pretty much nothing about this game going in, and since fans of JRPGs tend to be the most sycophantic blowjob-inducing gamers out there, search for any console RPG and you'll find a myriad of user reviews out there praising it as, quote, the greatest RPG of all time, even when it's just above average. But the funny thing about Tales of Symphonia is that even if it had competition, it would still be one of the best RPGs on the console. There are a lot of really great ideas here, like having your curatives restore a percentage instead of a set number so they never become obsolete. But I think what really did it for me was the characters. I absolutely loved every one of these characters and actually wanted to see them succeed. I actually cared about Lloyd. I was worried what would happen to Colette as the team continued to release the seals. It made me want to play through the whole thing, and for a game that's over 80 hours long, that's quite an accomplishment to do that and manage to keep me interested the whole time. Now, before I get to number 1, let's take a look at a couple of honorable mentions. Cran Physics. When I first picked this game up, I didn't really think much of it and just filed it away with the other games I picked up in the Humble Bundle. But when I received my drawing tablet for Christmas last year, it became a completely different experience. If you have a drawing tablet, this is a must-own title. Antichamber. I don't want to say much about this game, but imagine if Portal had sex with an MC Escher painting, and instead of chambers you solve in a linear fashion, you have a Metroidvania style to explore and power up your gun. Be sure to check this out if you really want to have your mind fucked. Half-Life. When people talk about Valve these days, their initial thought is that company that makes Steam and can't count to 3. But Half-Life is a somewhat necessary reminder that when they started out, they were just a studio making very well done, well polished, thoroughly enjoyable games that push the technical limits of what engines are capable of. Back to the Future. I am a huge fan of the original movies, as I'm sure you can guess, and this game was essentially parts 4 through 8 of the trilogy. My suggestion is not to think about this as a game that must be completed. Instead, think about it as an interactive tale that continues the Back to the Future storyline we loved growing up. Okay, enough stalling. My number 1 game of the year is Spelunky. I'm sorry. I am so sorry for being this predictable, but the truth is, Spelunky is my favorite game of 2013. And it's not just the fact that I've accumulated over 2,000 deaths spanning all the way back to the original PC game. It's not just the fact that I bought it twice, and it's not just the fact that as many times as I have played it, there's still more I have yet to discover. Spelunky represents the end result of countless hours playtesting to make a game that always feels right. It surpasses other retro-inspired games like AVG and Adventure, Rogue Legacy, and even VVV, but never comes off as pretentious or self-important. Spelunky isn't trying to tell this special story with literary themes or institute plot twists. It's just trying to be a very fun, infinitely replayable, super lethal roguelike platformer, and goddammit, it succeeds at all of those things. The game never holds your hand or presents arbitrary obstacles for your advancement. If you die, it's always your fault, and you always reset to square one. You don't grind away at the game and wear it down through determination. Instead, the game grinds away at you. It forces you to get better, hone your skills, and try harder next time. I like to joke that Spelunky is actually an RPG, except instead of gaining experience in-game, you gain experience as a player. Perhaps it works as a metaphor. You never know what's going to happen in the future, so the best you can do is learn from your past experiences and use all your knowledge to increase your chances of succeeding. And if you fail, yes, perhaps you got dealt a bad hand, but it's entirely possible that you'll get lucky as well. The only thing you can do is keep trying. Try harder next time and keep working. Sometimes the best thing you can get from an experience isn't treasure or better equipment, but simply knowledge. Knowledge that can't be taken away from you. And of every game I've played in the last 2 years, Spelunky is the one that taught me this the most. I am looking forward to a lot of awesome games this year, and maybe I'll even be able to put some PS3 or Wii U titles on the list. If you saw this video first, be sure to check out the worst games list to see what pissed me off, and don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. Take care everybody, and happy gaming.